All right, let me read our disclaimer and we'll get moving. We're holding today's meeting at Northern Middle School. Actually, we're holding the meeting today at Northern High School, since Northern Middle School no longer has air conditioning that's functioning. We will return to a public session at approximately 6 p.m. here at the high school. Under Section 3-305B of the General Provisions Article of the Maryland Annotated Code, there are two reasons the board will go into closed session this evening: to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction. Any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. To consult with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter. Specifically, the topics for tonight will be 3-305B1, topic including superintendent evaluation, update on the superintendent's goals for school year 24-25, certificated staffing recommendations, and personnel updates. 3-305B7, topic including Route 40 Elementary School Solar Project update. The reason these topics will be discussed in closed session instead of open session as follows: the personnel topics pursuant to 3-305B1 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because they include a discussion of specific employees, which is a confidential employment matter. The legal topic pursuant to 3-305B7 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because the board will be receiving specific legal advice from counsel, which is protected by attorney-client privilege. Hearing all of that, are there any objections to the board going into executive session? Hearing none, is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
So moved by Rodney.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Sadie. All those in favor of going into executive session signify by saying aye.
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 And I'm an aye as well. Have a quorum. We are now in executive session. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the July 8th, 2025 regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. Thank you for coming this evening. I'd like to start our evening with a moment of silence, then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by our student board members. So if you would please stand. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice, for all. Thank you. First order of business is the approval of the agenda, so I'll take a motion. So moved. So moved by Don.
Second.
Second by Sadie. Discussion. All those in favor of the agenda presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And it is approved. Approval of the consent agenda. A motion. So moved. So moved by Don.
Second.
Second by Rodney. All those in favor of the consent agenda as approved, as provided, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, and that is approved. All closed session summaries, announcements having to do with the Board of Education can be found on our website. We do have a new improved website. Certainly encourage everybody to take a look at that. We've done a really nice job, I think, of modernizing that. Mark, thank you for all your work as a part of doing that. We certainly appreciate it. There's a couple of other announcements. We do have a couple of employees who we'd like to recognize, and Dr. McCartney, I'll ask you to do that.
I will, gladly. First of all, I would like to, I think I can do this, introduce Miss Tracy Miller. Tracy Miller, Mrs. Miller, is our new Director of Human, I like you to go up and down like this. She is our new Director of Human Resources, started in that position on July the 1st, and has been extremely busy in providing guidance to all of us in the system as we look towards our new school year and new hires for the school system. Tracy comes to us as an experienced administrator. I'm sure they're still grieving in Grantsville because she was principal there for a number of years. And we certainly welcome her to our central office staff. And then, in addition to Tracy, we have Mr. Michael Lewis, who has joined us from a school in West Virginia. He is a native of Allegheny County, has decided to come to work in the greater Garrett County school system. And Michael is our new director of student services. He started also on July 1st and has been busy meeting people in both the system and in different agencies that he'll be working with in his new position. So, Mr. Michael Lewis. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, one question. Did you or did you not score any touchdowns against Southern High School during your athletic career? Is that a yes or no? Did you or did you not? We'll look at your contract further this evening. Yeah, welcome to our team. I wish you would have been on my team when I was coaching. Okay, but welcome to Garrett County. Thank you. Okay, with that being said, let's move to our new business, food and nutrition service bids, and it's an action item, and Scott will make the presentation.
I'm here this evening to request approval of our grocery chemical bids and to discuss our bread bid.
Superintendent, do you have a recommendation?
We have, excuse me, we have two separate bids, and I am going to make my recommendation in separate ways. My recommendation, first of all, for the one vendor, the AF Windling, incorporated in Gordon Food Service. This is for grocery items and janitor supply for chemicals and supplies. My recommendation is to approve that vendor.
Okay, the superintendent's made a recommendation to the board that we accept AF Windling and Gordon Food Service for the bid for groceries and for chemical supplies, janitor supply. Is there a motion as such?
So moved.
So moved by Rodney,
Second.
seconded by Sadie. Discussion about the bids. Yes, yes, sir.
Certainly, there's no possibility of doing anything about it this year, but next year I would recommend that we actually try getting some healthier food as opposed to the substantial amount of processed stuff that's part of this procurement.
Okay. We meet all guidelines for the federal government, like the current state. We try to bring as much fresh produce in as we can. We spend well over $150,000 a year on fresh produce. But if there's a specific item you're thinking of, I would be glad to see if we can't do something different.
Well, there's certainly no specific item I'd want to call out just for the ridicule factor, but there's a tremendous amount of highly processed foods which by any nutrition standpoint, it can't be good for you.
I would not disagree, but there's also a budgetary issue to deal with. So we have about $1.25 to pay for food for every meal. So we do the best we absolutely can with what we have.
I certainly wasn't disparaging your efforts.
But yes, we will definitely look at that.
Thank you.
Other questions, concerns?
Yeah, I have a question. It's not really, it could be a question or comment. So I know in the past you came to speak with student councils or even just students about working with our in-house like agricultural programs. Is that something you're looking to do in the future? Maybe not for this school year, but in the future?
We worked with the Southern FFA group this year. They sold us lettuce.
Okay.
that they had grown hydroponically. In the past, we've done much more. I've not been approached by anybody that has product to sell.
Okay.
So we would love to purchase. We've purchased hogs and lettuce from the schools. I'm trying to think what else. Uh, we've tried to purchase anything that they're willing to sell us. We love working with the FFA groups.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Others? Comments? Concerns? Okay. Motion on the floor to adopt the superintendent's recommendation of groceries from AF Windling and Gordon Food Service, chemicals and supplies from Janitor Supply. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And it is adopted. And now I guess we have another.
I do want to mention the bread bid. We did send a bread bid out this year. We received it back. We have decided not to award a bread bid at this time. We want to do a little experimenting with purchasing bread from our grocery suppliers. It's a different way of doing it. Instead of bringing it in from them, it's just we bring it in from our grocery supplier. We had to do that a couple of times this year to deal with some issues. And we believe we can do a better price and better quality through them. So we want to do that, and then we will rebid our bread with a more specific spec.
I do have something. Have you considered consulting with a dietitian when purchasing? I know you have a set amount of money that you can spend on food, but I know the health department and Mountain Laurel and the hospital have dietitians. Have you considered maybe consulting with them to see if there would be better choices that would be maybe the same price or maybe a little bit less?
We have not consulted. I've not consulted with the dietitians from the health department for several years, but I've worked with Amy Ritchie in the past. So, I mean, it's nothing that we're against. It's
Just
not
a thought.
something that's in our budget at this time. I mean, they would more than likely do something free, but yeah, I would think.
That's
I would hope.
potential. You don't know until you ask.
Yes.
I mean, and it's for the
That's
better
it.
health of the students. So just a thought.
So, the other
Go
item I have was a request for approval of, for us to join HPS Incorporated, which is a purchasing group. It is part of the Gordon bid. The Gordon's bid submittal is based on us joining HPS. It's a new, we currently work with the Premier Group, which doesn't have a cost to us. We've been members with them for a number of years. This one is a little different. And I would like to see us try to give it a year and see what happens. We were able to negotiate the price down to $1,200. It can be anywhere from $760 to $3,300 depending on how much you buy. But they prefer that we buy 85 to 90% of what we buy completely from them, and we negotiated that down to whatever they want as the award. So it's a very, very good process for us right now. We will get a 1% rebate on everything we buy from them, so we should easily cover the membership fee, and possibly we anticipate making a little bit more money in rebates than the membership fee, but so we would request that we approve the membership joining of that. Sure. For 1
Superintendent,
year.
You have a recommendation.
Yes, my recommendation is to approve participation in the HPS Incorporated School Food Service Purchasing Program as presented.
Okay, the superintendent's requested that we join HPS Incorporated as a part of the Gordon Food Services grocery bid. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So move it on.
Second.
Second by Sadie. Discussion. Anybody need any more clarification? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the recommendation by the superintendent, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And it is approved. Thank you.
Excuse me. Excuse me. We have a very important announcement that I would like Mr. Germain to make, please.
So
We
I
just
am-
found out today.
Yeah. Was notified this morning that our application for the community eligibility program was certified, which means that we will be able to offer students free meals, both breakfast and lunch next year in the entire system. So, it's a big change and really excited about doing it, bringing it on. And I'd like to thank Dr. McCartney for encouraging it.
What all does that tell us what all that would entail?
So for our student population, they no longer will have to pay for meals.
And no one, every.
Nobody, no
No one.
student.
Every enrolled student.
So they will also not have to fill out a meal benefit application. So they won't have to fill it out. We won't have to process it. So there's a win-win there. Let's see. So there's also trying to think of. I made some notes.
You also noted that we might have a little bit of savings.
Yeah, we should hopefully see a little increase in our revenue. Not it's as far as the reimbursement, we were able to group the schools together and benefit us a little bit more, so we'll get a little more reimbursement, and but we'll lose the local funding, but the reimbursement should do that. I believe it'll be an extra $40,000 a year to start, and then if we see participation similar to what we had during COVID, it should be able to grow also. So we won't have any more student meal debt. So we won't have that. We were gracious, the foundation and many people were able to donate enough money this year that we wiped out all of our student debt. So everybody starts the school year not owing a dime. So that's wonderful. We'll continue to do the breakfast in the classroom program. One thing I do want to, we'll do a press release and remind parents that they can do a request for a refund. We have students that have between a penny and almost $600 in their meal account. So they're going to want that back. So we have a system on the website already for that, so they can do that. We'll remind them to turn off their auto recurring payments so that that money just doesn't keep flowing in. I think so. We won't have to, as our office, we won't have to do verification, so we won't have to ask parents to show proof of their income any longer. And so it's just it's a great program. It's one that has been around for a while. We've not been able to take advantage of it in the past. Our numbers have been growing, which is a good thing for this, bad thing for other things. So, but we'll take advantage of what we can and see how we can help our families as much as possible.
How is that going to affect the Title I status of the schools?
So Title I won't change. The funding, the rank order may
Rank
change.
order, yeah.
But that changes based on free and reduced numbers every year anyway, or can every year. So my understanding, it won't change our comp ed funding either. So, which is all based on free and reduced. So it's we'll be able to keep all of that funding that way. It's the same.
How much student debt was owed? And I say that for a follow-up reason.
Sure. We had almost $15,000 at the end of this school year.
And I ask you to tell the public that simply because it amazes me to live in Garrett County that money is paid off almost instantaneously from donations from people throughout the county
Yes.
who are lunch angels or whatever
Yep.
they sometimes go by. But it's incredible to me how,
We had a wonderful response.
yeah. A matter of fact, the response is beyond that.
Yeah.
People wanting to pay. Yeah. It's incredible.
Well, and I would just like to add, I very much appreciate the work that you did to make this program a reality.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
And we will tomorrow begin press releases, Mark, so our families are aware of this change. So
I had one principal who asked me about school meal prices for the next year, and I haven't responded to him yet. I'm like, I'm gonna wait. I want to talk to you first. So,
Thank
Tim,
you.
you got a deal waiting for you.
thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, let's move on to speech and language pathologist services. This was an RFP and it is an action item.
Good evening. So I am bringing to you this evening a recommendation for the speech and language pathology RFP. This is a 12-month, one-year contract that we're recommending. As much of the nation, Garrett County has not been excluded from experiencing shortages in our speech and language pathologists. We've been kind of struggling with this for the past few years, but have been able to pull in some new hires. However, going into the school year, we want to feel very confident that all those services are covered. So we did a of the RFP on June 2nd, which was posted on the website and social media platforms. Then on June 5th, that was posted in the Republican following our RFP policy and procedure. We received 14 proposals, which is a very, very good number for us. You all have seen the rubric for those proposals. And so with that, we are recommending to go into a one-year contract with Best Life Therapy out of Bridgeport, West Virginia.
Superintendent McCartney, recommendation?
My recommendation is to approve the recommended vendor, Best Life Therapy, to provide speech and language services for the 25-26 school year.
Okay, the superintendent has requested the board approve Best Life Therapy of Bridgeport, West Virginia for the services provided for the school year 25-26. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Sadie. Second by Rodney.
Yeah.
Discussion? Any discussion? Yeah, I did say to the superintendent when we met earlier, thank you very much for the rubric. That was very informative because in my mind, when I read that, I had a lot of questions. Then I turned the page and there was the rubric that answered all my questions.
Perfect.
So thank you for that.
You're very
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Anything else? Okay, motion on the floor to adopt or to allow Best Life Therapy of Bridgeport, West Virginia to contract with us for the school year 25-26 for our therapy needs. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And it is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to Equity Advisory Board update. Dr. McCartney will make that presentation.
So, excuse my voice tonight, sorry. But according to our policy procedure, we do have an equity advisory board for the superintendent. And two of our members are right here at the table because Sadie Liller and Cadence both serve on that committee, so they can help me out at any time as I just very quickly review with you the major work of the committee this past year. The committee continues to focus on supporting our system and looking at where both students and staff can be in an environment in which everyone has an opportunity to flourish. So in that regard, this year, we reviewed this MABE document on using an equity lens to look at our work. So the committee actually reviewed 2 policies, procedures before they came to the board this year. Well, 1 policy procedure, the library media policy procedure, was reviewed and they were able to give input. They also looked at our the criteria that we've established for participation in driver's education and asked some questions which helped fine-tune that criteria. The other things that we were able to do, some of us met with some members of the committee, met with the Association of Student Councils, and had very good conversation and input from them regarding our school culture and things that we might do to support our students in a more positive way. And those words of advice from our students were shared with our administrators. The other thing we did, we added an Equity Advisory Board web page to our main page for the central office, and I haven't looked, but I think it's still there, Mark. So our last thing was we reviewed the data on bullying, because we hear that that is a problem in school systems, both locally and nationally. So we looked at data for the last 3 years and saw that we have about 20 reports on average yearly. And when we looked at it and the reasons and the strategies that schools put in place to address this situation, overall, we wish there weren't any. But we also recognize that having 20 a year did not signify a major problem, but a problem that we want to continue to be aware of. Moving forward, the Equity Committee will meet on a quarterly basis, and we're now meeting at Dennett Road at 4:30 on a quarterly basis. The first thing we're going to look at next year is parent-teacher conferences and participation of our parents and the availability of our professionals to meet with parents. Cadence or Sadie, did you want to add anything?
Okay, I figured it out. That was pretty much, yeah, she summed it up in a great way. I just want to further reiterate the fact of meeting, the big impact that meeting with the Association of Student Councils. If there is anything that the board or central office is looking at, I think that starting and speaking to the students is a great way to start. It definitely brought a lot to this, well, to our committee's eyes and what we wanted to look at for the year. And I think that that was very impactful for sure.
And I think I agree with everything that Cadence said. I wasn't a part of that talking to the students, but Dr. McCartney, maybe if you could just, for people who are watching, what is the protocol if somebody is feeling like they're being bullied? How do they turn that in? Is there a specific report that they fill out? And if so, how do they do that?
There is a bullying report. You can find it on our website under Student Services. I keep looking at Mark since we have a new website. So you can find it online on the website and fill it out from there. We definitely have some parents who are more comfortable going to the school site, and school administrators will help them fill out that report, or a counselor will help them fill out the report.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Dr. McCord?
I'll just follow up on the question Sadie asked. You know, if you look at reports, people actually filing complaints, it's probably underestimating the number of bullying that goes on, because if you look at the youth risk behavioral surveys that we used to do in the past, I'm not sure you still do them, but it's a much higher level of bullying that's pervasive in the school than what 20 reports would indicate. So I just wanted to make that note.
I don't disagree. That while we looked at reports because that's the data we have, we also looked at, Mr. Glodfeldy, what is the true definition of bullying, because sometimes we will call a situation bullying, but it's not. bullying is more ongoing, longer term than just one incident
Sure.
between a couple students. So we talked about that, but I don't disagree with you at all.
Well,
That
sometimes,
it is probably underreported. I would also point out that our climate surveys that our students take help us look at this. We looked at just one section of bullying, the reports, but we had looked at climate surveys earlier. And I believe our new work through Panorama will also give us more information so that we can continue to try to address.
okay, thank you. I just, I'll point out that, if you're bullied, sometimes there's a reluctance to report it because the fear is you'll get bullied
You
worse.
get bullied more.
So,
Yes.
so I'm glad you're looking at other sources. Thank you.
Is there a percentage that you could garner from it? Cyberbullying? What percentage is cyberbullying versus face-to-face bullying?
We did not look at that. There is a place on the form for different types of bullying. I will tell you that when I work with our high school principals especially, or 7th grade on, that cyberbullying is a problem, and that much of that happens outside the school. That doesn't make it any better, but it's a little harder for us to know about or to address, except through our education programs, trying to limit that.
Do you know, is there any, like in the health curriculum, is there anything talked about with bullying? Are the students educated on it at all to know what the difference? Okay.
Yes, and one of our programs is Second Step, and it was amusing and also informative to me that at our meeting, Cadence brought up Second Step, and that she and some of her friends still refer to some of what they learned out of that program. And that's a program that we're looking at this year to possibly continue Second Step or another program similar to it. But through our health curriculum, the bullying topic is definitely addressed. It's addressed as we review our student handbook with our students at the beginning of each school year.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much. We appreciate it and the
Thank
work
you.
of that committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business is policies and procedures, and it's JJA co-curricular, extracurricular activities, policy and procedures is a revision. And Mr. Edwards will make that presentation.
JJAs, there's a lot to it. It's one of the bigger policies we have. So we'll go through it page by page, although in the actual policy piece rather than a procedure, most of the changes are formatting and cosmetic and updates, so there's not much meat to it. Everything you see in red, and I'm assuming you have that in front of you, are the changes, so you just see the date changes, and then you see A, B, C, and D are just getting it in the proper format, so there's nothing of significance changed there. The third page stays the same. The fourth page under school activities is where you'll see a few recommended changes. The first recommended change in the policy is number 2. We would like to strike elementary and middle school groups may participate in a school or local community activity as culminating only because since this policy has been written, we have added unified bocce to the elementary schools, which violates that policy in and of itself as it is. We've also allowed our middle school grade band members to participate in the marching band at the high school. So we would just like to strike that because that's not actually what we're doing. Moving into number 3, you'll see a strikeout where it says, in no case will more than 3 student days be lost for each group activity unless travel is requested out of the country. Would like to strike that. I'd like you to think in the perspective of robotics. Oftentimes our robotics teams, especially in competition season, will miss 3 days or more because they're traveling for those competitions. As the state athletic organization changes the way that they do regionals and states in particular sports, think track. We have 2 days of regionals now. We have 2 days of states, and those regionals are typically Frederick County or somewhere further away. They could very easily miss 4 days of school just to compete for a state championship. And then number 4, schedules will not be made which request students to leave more than 3 times before 3 o'clock during school days for any specific extracurricular activity. Again, we actually changed our schedule a few years back to put our Rams and pause period at the end of the day to make sure if students did have to leave early, typically they weren't leaving a core class at that point in time. As school consolidations across the region have happened at the high school level over the last decade, 15 years, our teams are traveling further and further. Our bands are traveling further and further, and sometimes they have to leave a little earlier to get there on time. So that is the recommendation and the reasoning behind those 3 strikes. The next page under general conditions, the superintendent and I thought it would read easier and be less confusing. The specific extra duty programs are determined by the Board of Education. Although the number of compensated coaches and sponsors is determined through the negotiating process, we thought they contradicted each other slightly. So we're recommending taking that first sentence out. It does not change the nature of that because it still says approved by the Board of Education at the end of that sentence. Moving down to number 8, that is just cosmetic. The strikes are just to make that read cleaner. I did strike everything in both policy and procedure on this that says Director of Secondary Education 9 through 12 because that secondary director now is basically 6 through 12. And on extra duty personnel, that sign-off sheet, a previous superintendent changed that, and we have not been doing that for quite some time due to that change by a previous superintendent. The superintendent has not been signing off on contracts for coaches. They've just been going to the principal, myself as director, and then the HR director after the background check's done. So we would like to strike superintendent of schools for that purpose as well. And then the next.
One question about
Yes, sir.
that, or just an observation. It would be interesting, I think, for me, maybe nobody else, but for me to see what the list of extra duty personnel actually are each year, who they are, what they're doing, where they are, as just for knowledge to know that if I go to a game, I may know, I would more likely know who I'm, seeing in terms of a coach. But, those are things that I don't know that we've ever gotten a list. Not that it's anybody's fault. We've never asked for it.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to have that list provided
We could do that.
at the end of it.
Yeah, we could do that. There are no other recommended changes in the next 2 pages until you get to student activity funds. There are no page numbers on this, but I think that is page 7 or 8. The policy is no longer 175 section 3. The policy is just BC, so I just changed the policy. And the other change is to strike whatever gobbledygook that is written there that makes no sense.
Another question, as this question has come up. Booster Club raises money. Where does the money go? What happens? Tell us what because I've not been doing this for a lot of years, so I don't know the answer. Tell us how that works now.
Well, I think I'll answer this in two ways. If a booster club can have their own money outside of the school system in a bank account. What we do is if a booster group buys something, a trailer for the football team, or who knows? It could be uniforms for a sports team. Once that is purchased and donated to the school, it becomes the school's property. For liability insurance, for a whole lot of reasons, that it has to be done that way. So whether it's a JROTC booster group, a band booster group, sports booster group, once they buy, they can raise all the money they want and keep it over here. Once they actually buy something, it becomes the property of the school system.
If they are buying that under the auspices of, I'm raising money for Southern High School to buy helmets, and I'm raising that money. Does the board have any policies or procedures or forms that indicate that they should fill out a fundraising permit because they're using our name, and then also a fundraising final tally?
We do not do that with booster groups because they're outside of our audit.
Okay.
If a team does it, if the football team itself does it, absolutely. They have to do all of that stuff. If the booster group does it and they're doing it outside of the fiscal purview of the school system, we don't require them to do that.
Okay. So basically a booster group can donate what they want to, but it becomes ours once they do that.
Correct.
Once they raise the money. But we don't audit how they spend their money, raise their money.
We do
create their
not.
money.
We do not.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a great question.
Well, yes, thank you. Thank you, Paul.
And the last page, there's a recommended change. The policy as written reads that the final reports and audits of the school year go to the director of secondary education. I have never received those in the 13 years I've been here. They go to the finance director, so I just changed that to be finance director designee. I get the final report for the budget for equipment and transportation to make sure they line up, but the actual audits of the school stuff just goes to finance, and that's probably where it should go. Any questions on the policy point? Then the accompanying procedure, there's a lot more recommended changes in this to bring it more in line with what we're doing. Again, I think what you'll see on the first page anyway is just updates and modifications to get it into the proper format. Nothing really much there. When we get into administrative procedures on the second page, again, we get to that piece where it talks about student activities, additions, deletions. That actually is in the negotiated contract, so it should say that in here. So that's the change there. The other recommended change that I made, it used to read that the principal of the school is responsible for the scheduling of all curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular activities, but in practice, the athletic directors make the sports schedules, the band directors make the band schedules, so on and so forth. The principal approves those, but they're not responsible to actually create them. So I thought it would be more fitting to signify in there the principal approves it, but the others would be the ones responsible for that schedule. Moving on to the next page under cancellation of events and practices. Again, just changes to put it more in line with actual practice. And then you'll see common language everywhere that this impacts. So the next, I'm actually presenting for Mr. Witt on the next thing. I think it might be in that. It's in the handbook. So this will just bring it in line so that they all read the same thing, which is basically what we've been doing. If school's canceled, when schools are closed at the beginning of the day, you wake up and an announcement goes out that Garrett County Public Schools are closed today. There's still opportunity to possibly have extracurricular or co-curricular activities. We typically wait till about lunchtime. The director of facilities, director of transportation, myself, and the superintendent, and the athletic directors all communicate during that flurry of activity about 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock to see what we're going to do. We could still decide that we can have practices, games, whatever, based on what the weather forecast looks like. That's what number 1 reads as written.
I have a question about
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
Now, does that include after-school programs as well?
You mean not affiliated with the school?
Yeah,
Typically not. Typically, if we say school's canceled, but we're going to allow the band to travel or the basketball team to practice or whatever, it does not then carry over to outside groups coming in.
okay,
We typically do not do that.
okay, thank you.
When schools are closed early, this isn't a change, but I think just so that you all know, because I think sometimes these questions come up, if we actually go to school and then it's an early out, it gets too bad and we have to close school, everything's canceled. We don't say, well, we'll wait and we might the only thing we might do in an extreme case, if it's wrestling regionals and they have to go or they're going to get kicked out of the regionals because they didn't show up, we might say we're still going to let you go in a case like that or something in that realm. But 99.9% of the time, everything will be closed.
Well, I think the most important thing is the superintendent has flexibility
Correct.
to make
That
what
is correct.
she feels is the most prudent decision based on the circumstances. I
Absolutely.
think that's what everybody needs to understand.
Yep.
She does
Absolutely.
have that flexibility.
Yep. And then in the next one down, we just changed director's transportation to systems operation because that's the correct name right now. At the bottom of this page, we no longer do the complimentary tickets the way it reads here. Several years back, we just made it real easy. We didn't think, if you were an elementary school teacher or middle school teacher, you should have to pay to get in. So we just said anyone with a badge. If this only counts in Garrett County, anyone with a badge can get into sporting events or extracurricular events, and your badge is your pass. That makes it easy for the people taking tickets because they may not know who you are if you're from Northern and go to Southern and vice versa. That's all that we say there. And then the MPSSAA passes, which have been around for a long time, that'll get the coaches and their families in. And the GCPS ID cards just admit the one that has the pass. Fees for athletic events. I just took C form off of that. I left a live link at the bottom, but that was not a live link and it didn't say what it was, so I just scratched that. Additions and deletions of extracurricular activities. Again, this should go to the director of secondary education, not the principal, because if we're going to add a program, it would be countywide, not school-wide. In a case like this, that would be governed by this policy. So therefore, if you do that, you can scratch all of number 2. Number 3, the director of secondary education then will convene the school activities review and evaluation committee. You also noticed that was titled different things in different policies and different procedures in different places, so we've standardized that name so everybody knows what we're talking about. And then the committee will make a recommendation to the superintendent about whether to add it or not. Moving down to number 4, again, just clarifying the name of the committee and that the recommendation is made to the superintendent. And then number 5 is scratched because addition of extra duty personnel could be negotiated. Next one down, same page, employment assignment evaluation of extracurricular personnel. I scratched excluding A&S personnel. I know Coach Woods was on the board back then. Maybe Mr. Glodfeldy was too. The whole discussion a few years back about A&S and what Comar says about who can coach and not. So we can't really exclude A&S. We can prioritize teachers over A&S, but we can't exclude them if they're the only one that applies or whatever. So that's what that is for. Next page, again, all of those changes are simply cosmetic or updating changes to current title. The next page, other conditions, if you go down starting at D, what we found was every single thing in D and E and first offense, basically the rest of this page, resides verbatim in another policy under personnel. We feel like it fits best in personnel because it applies to all personnel, not just a coach. They would, I mean, so it's more encompassing if it's in the personnel piece. And it really should only reside in one policy, because if one gets changed and the other one doesn't, then you've got an issue. So our recommendation is to strike it from this one and just leave it where it lives in the personnel. And I don't recall right off the top of my head which one that is, but Karen and I checked it and it definitely lives there. Next page, the School Activities Review and Evaluation Committee that we referenced earlier. We used to have a whole bunch of people on there. In the past years, we've streamlined that to what you see here. One administrator, one athletic director, 2 teacher coaches, and 1 athletic trainer from each high school is what we have been using. There was a question in the policy review committee meeting about students. What we saw with students was inevitably they would show up, they would sit there for sometimes a couple hours out of class and not say a word because they were intimidated by sitting around a bunch of adults in a room talking about something, and we didn't think that was a valuable use of their time. The last time we made meaningful changes to the handbook and some things that we were looking at were a couple of years ago. I actually went into the high schools with the athletic directors and we called a meeting of some of the kids we had one meeting at Southern and one meeting at Northern, so they got to talk more amongst their peers. We got a lot better feedback doing it that way. We also used to have parents on the committee. Because we meet during the day, parents ended up not coming. Then we were concerned that if we had them on there and they weren't showing up, we didn't think that looked too good. And then there was a concern if we had them on there and there actually was an issue that we needed to discuss that involved a particular student or coach, personnel or student, what do we do with them in that situation? So we ended up removing the parent from that as well, and that's been several years ago that we did that. So that's why that's what we've been doing with students and parents. And what we have found is if we make a recommendation to do something that parents disagree with, we are quick to hear from them, and if they agree with it, you don't hear from them. So. So that's that, and you only see it the next paragraph down. Again, cosmetic change 9 through 12, and then we also put on here the committee does not talk about staffing or compensation. Doesn't make decisions on staffing and compensation because that's negotiated. Last page. Again, supervisor of maintenance turns to director of systems operations. I also am recommending that we strike the first three links. Those job descriptions and duties are going to be in the job description in the posting when we post it. I don't necessarily think we have to have those here because they change. I'll give you a real example that whatever the athletic trainer was on there, we got into an issue with that several years back. That link's still there. The new trainers, a whole law that says what trainers can and can't do. So when the job description goes out, that's what it says. So I don't think we should have it written there because they change. And it's going to be posted when it posts. So it's eliminates confusion. And then the broadcast agreement that we talked about earlier, that live link is there, and that is the updated form. So if you're looking through this, you get to the end, you can just click on the broadcast agreement. I know there's a lot to that one as well.
A couple questions,
Yes.
Paul. My personal preference is that I think there should be a parent from each end of the county invited to the committee. It's my personal preference. Doesn't mean I'm right or I'm wrong. I think it sends a message to both ends of the both communities that we value you as partners in our educational system. I got to think between yourself and between the people running Southern High School now that there would be at least one parent who has an interest in making sure that their end of the county is heard athletically and extracurricular wise. So I would like for you to. I just feel like when you do that, you send a good message. We value your partnership. That's my personal preference.
No, and I understand that, and we certainly do value that. Certainly not opposed to that. We just dropped it because they weren't coming.
Right.
The only question I would have now, which is workable, certainly not an obstacle, is what if you have multiple parents that want to participate, then how do you decipher who?
Principal would choose one. So throw that back on the principal's lap. You choose who you want to represent your school.
True. And then will you get criticism, which comes with the job as well, which if we have two sports parents, no band parent, two band parents, no robotics parent, no JROTC parent. And if you try to include everybody, then you're getting unwieldy.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Not arguing against what you're saying.
Yeah,
I agree with
sure,
your
I understand.
sentiment.
The principal has to make that decision. Who am I going to invite?
Right.
That
Well, and
encompasses-
first and foremost, who's going to show up?
Yeah, somebody that I can count on who's going to encompass maybe. We have to approve that. At least it's a board policy at the moment that we approve that each year. That handbook probably is going to go out next month.
Well, I have recommended changes in the handbook, but I'm holding that until the policy. The handbook should be a summation of the policy and procedure. So I can't update the handbook to be a summation of the policy and procedure
Sure.
until the policy and procedures
Yes,
approved.
I understand.
But I do have the edits made, ready to go once everything gets approved.
Yeah, because those handbooks will go out to kids and families.
Well, we typically send them we post it online and we send it to the schools. We don't make copies for every single kid. Every coach has available copy of it. There's one in the office and it resides online. We do not provide them to everyone.
So parents just go online, if they want to see a copy of it, they're
Right.
instructed to go online.
And all the forms our trainers have become more and more the gatekeepers of a lot of this, because half of that handbook are the concussion forms and the physicals and all that stuff. So they have a lot of that stuff. And those do go to every kid because they have to.
Sure,
fill
they have
out.
to sign off on it.
Right, right.
Well, it's just, certainly as all this stuff gets bigger and bigger every year.
Yes.
I guess the importance of ensuring that parents, get the information, correct information every year. And if they have questions, they have a method of asking that question by going online and looking and trying to find it out. And as it gets, more and more involved, that's the thing that concerns, I think, all of us, is that are we able to get the information out correctly every year to all the parents? Right. And what's our method by doing that? But it seems like the best method is the one you're using. If you want to know the answer, look online.
Right. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I just want to be sure we're all on the same page, because as we were looking at the policies and procedures in depth and looking at the handbook refers to approved board policies and procedures.
Correct. And part of that edit is live links directly to them now. So when you look online, you can just click and it takes you right.
Right. Yeah.
But we were not, and I know for the last 2 years that I've been here, we have not brought the handbook itself to the board for approval, because our reading of the policies and procedures and the practice was that we shared that with the board for information, but that it did not require board approval, so we weren't as concerned about that as we were concerned about getting these in order.
I would say yes. That was our read on it.
But as long as we have,
But you will have.
as long as we have policy that says we have to approve something. Because our policy says we will approve the handbook.
We'll have to
In
look.
whatever form you want to present
We'll have
that.
to look for that policy.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
It's-
We will look again. And I'm sorry that if I did not communicate that, but I know Mr. Edwards and I talked about it and could not find in policy that the board approved the handbook. The policies the board's approved, that you're approving tonight, go in the handbook.
Yeah, the handbook
I-
should be a summation of policy and procedure with links to the actual policy and procedure.
With
and then
additional
all of the
information.
forms that students are responsible for
Yeah.
filling out. The other thing,
But let me check into that, Mr. Woods, further.
the other thing we have in the handbook now that we didn't used to have is a comprehensive, it doesn't have the names of the individuals, but it does have all of the extra duty contracts listed and how many of them there are. So,
Yeah, because we have paid contracts, we have volunteer contracts.
exactly. Yep.
Variety of contracts.
Yep.
I have a question.
Sure.
We definitely.
Under number 6, other conditions,
Yep.
you've struck out D and E. Why is that?
Let me find it.
It's the one where it says where the employee is.
That's the one that lives in another policy in personnel.
So that is, okay.
Yeah, it is verbatim, exactly what you see I have
Okay.
struck.
So it's not really it's being taken out, but it's still in effect because it's somewhere else.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Paul.
Okay. I also have Mr. Witt's. This is a lot easier.
Paul, I'm sorry. Got legal advice here.
Okay.
I would like to mention there is no public comment. No one signed up for public comments, so there'll be no comment at 7 p.m. Thank you.
This one will go a lot quicker. This is policy KG. This is use school facilities. Mr. Witt is recommending no policy changes as is, so he's not recommending any changes to the policy, although he would like to make note that it was reviewed. And then if you go to the accompanying procedure, there are just a few changes. I think you will find most of them, again, just cosmetic and update. If you look at page 2, you'll just see that Garrett County was added to the categories for youth and adult. You'll see that Director of Maintenance, Facilities, and Operations is changed to the Director of Systems Operations. Those are the only changes there, nothing of substance. The big change that you will see is on the next page under number 9, where it says categories 3 and 4 will be assessed custodial fees for weekends and non-school days. And this is to make sure that our custodians are paid properly for the overtime that they will be working because of the event that those categories signed out to school for. So really the whole procedure change is to make it better and easier for our custodians to be compensated. The only other thing that you will notice, again, just to kind of clear up, the difference you'll see in this is JJA that we just went over. When you get into like cancellations of events and so on and so forth, those involve the events. So that's basketball traveling to Mountain Ridge, that's football going somewhere, that's practice, that's the event itself, where procedure KG, use of school facilities, talks about our facilities. So I think that goes back a little bit to what Mrs. Liller was asking about. With this, what you see here is the building principal will consult with the Director of Systems Operations regarding the use of the facility. So if we cancel school and there's an event scheduled that evening in the school, are we going to cancel that too? That was what this would factor in. It's not even our event. It could be something totally non-school related. This is what would impact that. And then Mr. Witt went on to clarify then that curricular, co-curricular, and extracurricular activities are governed by JJA, which is what I just mentioned. And I believe that is the only changes outside of just clarifying and updating.
Questions? Anyone?
All right. Thank you.
Okay, DKCA travel and incidental expense procedure as a revision. Dr. McCartney?
This one's an easy. This is in procedure. And it is on the 3rd page under rental vehicle. This is something I had suggested to the board earlier this year, that we were saying to staff that they did not have to rent a vehicle for travel. It said must before, it now says may, that it may be utilized for travel, but it gives us latitude to consider the event, the safety, and the economics of the whole thing. So,
Questions? It is first read. It's a one-word change.
yeah, one word change, but to change procedure, here we are. While I'm here, I do want to thank Mr. Edwards, who just left. We we were trying to get our wording correct from one policy and procedure to the other policy and procedure as we were going through those. I also want to let the board know the other thing that we're doing in our policies and procedures, and I'm thanking Karen for keeping track of this. We noticed in the last couple of years that some of our policies, procedures had not been officially reviewed for some time, like 20 years. So we are now inserting a review date. So because sometimes they are reviewed by staff when they're using them and there is no change needed, but we want to start noting that. So you'll begin to see that on some of our documents as we go forward.
Telehealth. And Ms. Aiken is going to make that presentation. That's JLCF Telehealth Policy and Procedure. This is new, all new.
All new, brand new, all red.
Right.
Okay, just to give you a little bit of background, this actually was from last legislative session, and the state said one of the things that must happen is they had to have a guideline and stakeholders, so it kind of put us behind the 8 ball with their timing. And one of the things that we must do is implement it, have a policy and procedure to implement for this school year, and it must be in the student handbook. So in order to do that, as we go through this process, and if you approve this, is we're going to have an amendment to the handbook that would go home with students when the sign off, and next year then after that we would start putting it in the handbook. So we would meet the letter of the law. Just so as we go through this, you might think, oh, how are we going to do that? So this gives our students, if you look under policies, their policy, it ensures the development of a procedure. It gives our students from grades 6 to 12, which is the grade band in the law that they were targeting, the opportunity for having in-school parent-driven telehealth appointments. And the policy basically just says that we are going to meet the letter of the law, that we are going to make sure they have that opportunity and a procedure. They will know the procedure for that, and we will make that known and to them by the handbook and other ways we would have that, let them know. Okay. The procedure, we need to let parents know every year that the procedure, how to do this. So we basically, besides the handbook, we will have it in our pupil services, a handbook that's online, our school health services handbook that's online, and any other way that we can push it out to students. If you look in the actual procedure I've given you, there are links to a form, and it's outlined even in the application. So basically, if I want to have an in-school telehealth appointment, and we have the autonomy for each county because it may be different. We don't have in-school clinics like some counties do. So what we've put together is a way that parents could go to their healthcare professional and say, I want to have an appointment, so I'm not taking my child out of school, because we have a lot of students that go downstate. We have a lot of students that go to WVU, Pennsylvania, so that's a whole day out of school. So they could say, we're going to have an appointment. That way, the HIPAA compliance and everything is with between the provider and the student. They would use their own devices, not a Garrett County Public School device, and we would make for them an area where they had as much confidentiality and privacy as we can provide, and that's never going to be 100%. If, in fact, the parent is not in the appointment, might be a mental health appointment, the doctor doesn't feel they need to be in there, we will provide a place for them right beside of where the student is. And in each school may be a little bit different, because we want to certainly maintain the confidentiality of other students. So if it's in guidance, we wouldn't want the parent there hearing other, parents' issues or with students. So they would have a place to use their device, to meet with their healthcare provider. The parent then, if they had, after the appointment, if the student was too upset to go back to school, they could either take the student with them or let the principal know that they need help from the pupil service team for their student. The principal at each school would have the autonomy to say, this is too disruptive, or they give them the application 30 days prior to the appointment, and that way we have equity, so we don't have one person using all the appointment times, so that each principal in each school would be able to do that and keep a record of who all was using the appointment times. So hopefully this will give kids an opportunity to be able to miss less school and have the opportunity provided for them.
Well, it's very beneficial to a rural county
Yes, it is.
to do that, rather than have to go home, come back for an appointment when that appointment could be done while you're picking your child up at school.
Yes.
It is a first read, and it is all new, and certainly something to digest. Any other questions? We'll take it up again next month. Okay,
Okay.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
All right, that takes us down to our student board members, or Cadence. What's been happening this summer?
Right with these things. All right, so since it's July, I don't have much to report on the student happenings. But as far as our county student council, we're still staying very active throughout the summertime. We're working on planning a retreat at our Hickory for student council members in September. And then we are having an executive board meeting next month. As far as what's on my plan, I plan to attend the MABE student member orientation August 18th. And then I'm working on creating, I know I talked in my interview about a sort of advisory council and getting students from different areas of the county. I'm going to work on creating my sort of plans for that and how I will work to identify those students. And then also just identifying areas for improvement within the next school year, and then just sort of seeing what happens from there.
Okay, questions for Cadence? Anybody? Thank you, Cadence. Board member updates, anything any board member wants to share?
I have something.
Yes, go ahead.
Just learned yesterday that MABE has requested that I be appointed to the Maryland Collaborative to Improve Children's Oral Health through school-based programs. So that was something that I was really concerned about, oral health in Garrett County when I was health officer. So I volunteered to go ahead and do that for them. So I'll probably be on that commission. I don't know what, hopefully it won't entail too much, but
Well, yeah, we certainly appreciate your involvement with MABE, Rodney. It's been very helpful to, I'm sure, them, but very helpful to us that you're involved. Thank you. Anything else? Yeah, you know how to get a few of them. Okay, Superintendent, you've got the last word.
I have the last word. I like that. I just want to be sure that the public knows that we are in a summer programming mode, and summer programming is occurring at our elementary schools. The opportunities being provided are targeted tutoring for students in English language arts and mathematics, with many of our schools also providing enrichment activities for our students. These programs are designed based on individual school needs with a variety of engaging activities. I'll give you a couple of examples. Our students at Crellin and Grantsville Elementary Schools are participating in English language arts and math tutoring, and they also attended a week-long Young Naturalist Camp at the Evergreen Heritage Center. At Accident Elementary School, students are receiving academic support and taking part in an enrichment trip to the Discovery Center later this month. Broadford Elementary is offering targeted tutoring 2 days a week, paired with 2 additional days of high-interest enrichment camps focused on sports, cheer, and dance, hiking, nature, gardening, and cooking. So these programs are supporting continued academic growth and keeping our students engaged throughout the summer, and we certainly appreciate the support of the school board, along with various grants to support these activities. Parents in the community or guardians who want more information about any of these activities should please contact their individual school. Another reminder is that the Garrett County Public Schools will have a booth at the Garrett County Fair from July 28th to August the 2nd, and we hope that people stop by and visit with us. Also, please be sure to look for the student artwork and agricultural projects that will be on display at the fair. Several school organizations and booster clubs will have great food available, and of course, we will all want to be supporting those endeavors. Lastly, Garrett County Public Schools has an updated website. Thank you, Mr. Mark Green. Please check this website out if you haven't done so already. It is a little bit more user-friendly for the most part, and pertinent information for the most part is more prominent, and the address is the same, gcps.net. That's all I have.
All right, well, thank you. I will now take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move it on.
Second.
Sam and Sadie, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and we are adjourned.